This is without a doubt the most unique case I have ever worked on in my career.
In our discussions regarding the investigations into the death of Kendrick Johnson thus far, we've left out several details of red herrings that investigators followed up on. Some of these were minor, wrapped up within a couple of days, but others were so impactful that millions of dollars in resources were wasted chasing down empty leads. The first of these red herrings was an email that was sent to the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office on January 27, 2014. In the initial release of the email, the names were redacted, but the following is the unredacted version that we were able to obtain.
My best friend was at a party Saturday night with Taylor Eakin, a Lowndes High junior who dates Brian Bell, and Taylor was upset about something that Brian had said to her. So her and my best friend started talking, and by the end of the night Taylor had told my friend everything that the whole nation has been wondering for the past year. She told my friend what really happened to Kendrick Johnson. Taylor said that about a little over a year ago she had sexual intercourse with Kendrick Johnson while she was dating Brian Bell. Brian found out and threatened KJ. KJ told Brian to meet him in the old gym after 3rd block and he would have his knife ready. Brian Bell and Ryan Hall, who had just transferred back to LHS, met KJ and killed him. Brian Bell has also been heard admitting to killing KJ more than once over the phone. His brother, Brendan Bell, also got drunk at a party on the 4th of July and told many people that Brian killed KJ and that he, Brandon, was tired of keeping it a secret.
All of those names should be familiar to you by now, except for Ryan Hall. But don't fret, we will be getting into him in just a little while. He has a big role to play. The following day, officers went to the home of the girl who had sent the email, and she admitted that it was a lie. She said that she thought that she was helping. The young lady wrote a letter to the Valdosta Daily Times confessing that she'd lied, which was published the following day. A few months later, on July 18, 2014, a 19-year-old former Lowndes High School student named Dalton Chauncey approached the police saying he had information on the murder of Kendrick Johnson.
Well, around the beginning of the year or around December, me and Derek Thomas was hanging out around the flagpole, and these two boys named Derek and Keith said they killed KJ, and then I walked off and went to class. I never heard anything specific about how they did it. I don't know if they were joking or not. I just heard all the rumors going on at school about his death and all because I came to school after his death. I don't know Derek or Keith.
The police investigated this statement and called Chauncey back a few days later. They informed him that as far as they could tell, these two individuals did not exist. When asked if he would submit to a lie detector test, Chauncey refused. Chauncey was then arrested for making a false statement. He was sentenced to 5 years probation and community service, as well as fined for $100,000. His mother told reporters that her son is autistic and simply doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie. However, someone who didn't know the difference wouldn't see an issue in taking a lie detector test. Chauncey has never admitted that it was a lie. By the time 2014 had come to an end, the investigative news into KJ's death had quieted down a lot. For the most part, the focus was on lawsuits going on in the background. David Whitley, a journalist, had this to say regarding the lawsuits.
I'm unlike anybody else. I came from the outside and just looking at the facts objectively, and seeing the investigation and just the preposterousness of the claims, especially in the lawsuit on claiming that the cover up and how a cover up the people that would have taken. Basically it would have taken the police chief, the school principal, really every law enforcement officer in town would have been involved in this cover up, and would have risked their careers and risked going to jail just to cover up for Brian Bell. It was just preposterous.
But in 2015, after the release of the Ebony articles had prompted Michael Moore of the DOJ to get involved, Aaliyah Griffin approached him and told him she had information. Again, we are not discussing the Ebony articles in this podcast on the public feed. The Ebony articles have been scrubbed. However, if you would like to subscribe to our Patreon, you can get access to our original side story podcast, Ebony Lies, which covers the Ebony articles in greater detail. In her statement, Aaliyah Griffin said that she was an ex-girlfriend of Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was a close friend of Brian Bell, who had been implicated before in the fraudulent email and again as a John Doe in the Ebony articles. The following is her version of events from her deposition.
We were at one of his friend's house and Antoine had stolen Ryan's phone, which is this black guy, they call him Swerve. And Ryan was mad and wanted to fight him because he stole his phone. So he told Swerve to come over to the guy's house so they could fight. And he kept calling Swerve's phone and trying to get him to answer the phone. And he wouldn't answer. Period. So when finally he answered and Ryan was like cussing and saying stuff, he was like, "I'm going to do you like I did KJ motherfucking Johnson." And then he just started crying really bad and crying. He was like, "Did I really just say that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you did, but it's okay."
In her statement, she said that she was being followed and harassed at work, and her mother's business was being watched by Ryan Hall's father. Her statement was twisted by Michael Moore later, who claimed that it was Rick Bell harassing Aaliyah at work and used it to accuse him of intimidating witnesses. This is verbatim from the original statement.
On 2 occasions I noticed that Ryan Hall's father was following or stalking me. On one occasion, which occurred before my second appearance before the federal grand jury in Macon, Georgia, I noticed Ryan Hall's father at my place of employment in Valdosta, which was a restaurant in Valdosta. Because I had been called N-word and slut and other names by Ryan's father and other members of Ryan's family, I was keenly aware of whenever Ryan Hall's father happened to be in any area that was near me. Consequently, on one occasion where I observed him parked across the street from my mother's daycare center in Valdosta, Georgia for no apparent reason, I notified the Valdosta Police Department.
Aaliyah claimed she had text messages on her phone that could prove Ryan was involved, but she couldn't produce them at the time. The next time she met with Moore, she said that she had lost her phone. Aaliyah's information is what allowed the DOJ to get authorization to utilize SWAT resources to raid the Bells, Ryan Hall, and Taylor Eakin for evidence of witness tampering. A total of 5 raids occurred, adding who knows how many thousands of dollars to the 8 to 7-figure price tag on an erroneous investigation. The following is an excerpt from Aaliyah's deposition.
Have you ever discussed the death of Kendrick Johnson with any of the Bell family?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We met at Lowndes High School in the parking lot and Rick Bell and Miss Karen, they handed Ryan a folder with some papers in it. And they were telling us like who all would be out at the grand jury and what to be ready for and stuff like that.
How did that encounter occur?
I was with Ryan and I guess they had asked Ryan to meet them there.
Okay, did they say anything in this conversation to Ryan Hall about what he should say or what he was going to say before the grand jury?
I think they were just telling him what kinds of questions would be asked and how he should answer them and who would be asking the questions.
Tell us specifically what you recall about that.
Like some certain attorney was going to be there and he was going to be asking questions about something, like, he's a tough attorney. You've got to be, ready for his questions, and stuff like that.
Ryan Hall and the Bells were seen meeting and exchanging folders, but Rick Bell said that during this time the Bells were experiencing severe harassment and were instructed by their lawyer to print copies of any threats they received so they could have a record. The Bells passed this advice on to Ryan Hall, who was also getting harassed to the point that he allegedly had been cornered by a group of young men and prevented from getting into his vehicle. Ryan did not have his own lawyer. He later said that he didn't feel the need to obtain one because he had nothing to hide. By our standards, he still would have been a minor at this point, but in the state of Georgia, you are responsible for your own legal decisions, and the police do not have to contact your parents or guardians at the age of 17. Ryan didn't have a printer, so he was seen exchanging a folder with Rick and Karen Bell containing pages of threats they'd printed for him. When Ryan Hall and his terrified girlfriend were raided on July 23, 2015 at 4:30 a.m., he was dragged out of his bed in his underwear and handcuffed almost naked to the railing of his front porch while they searched his home and seized his electronics. This unjust humiliation encouraged Ryan to make a statement to the Valdosta Daily Times about how he had been treated by the authorities over the last 2 years. Before the raid, he said he'd been interviewed by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, appeared before Michael Moore's grand jury twice, and taken a polygraph test. Unfortunately, from the perspective of a team that hunts information like a pig hunts truffles, he doesn't include the results of the polygraph in his statement. He said that on the day of the raid, he was asked to take a short ride by the marshals once they had collected what they were there for. He agreed, unaware that the short ride would be 2 hours away to Macon, where he was questioned for more than 4 hours. During the interrogation, Hall said they told him 1. They were coming after him real hard and would not quit until they had him arrested. 2, the next time they saw him, they would put him in jail for murder. 3, they had him on video walking to the old gym. 4, they claimed they had text messages, tape recordings, and witnesses that connected him to the death of KJ Johnson. And 5, they had more on him than they do Brian, enough to put him away. After Michael Moore had spearheaded everything up to the raids based on Aaliyah's claims, when he attempted to get her to repeat her testimony in court under oath, she refused. Shortly after that, he resigned and the investigation was moved to Ohio and made no progress before being closed in 2016. On August 6, 2017, the Johnsons' lawyer Shaveen King was allegedly approached by a 27-year-old man named Ryan Anthony Domek Hernandez. He claimed he had information on the murder of Kendrick Johnson and provided the following statement.
My name is Ryan Anthony Domek Hernandez, and I am over the age of 21 years of age. I am giving this declaration voluntarily, and I have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein and know them to be true. I met Brandon Bell in April 2016, and on one occasion was with him at his apartment in Jacksonville, Florida, when he told me that his younger brother killed Kendrick Johnson. According to Brandon Bell, Brian Bell, Ryan Hall, and Kendrick Johnson were in the gym when an argument between Brian and Kendrick began. The argument was about or over Brian's girlfriend. According to Brandon Bell, Brian was taking steroids at the time, and out of roid rage or the effects of the steroids, he struck Kendrick Johnson in the neck with a 45-pound weight or dumbbell. Brandon Bell stated that Brian Bell opined that the aforementioned blow may have broken Kendrick Johnson's neck. According to Brandon Bell, Ryan Hall was a witness to the fight, and Brian Bell told Ryan Hall that if he didn't keep quiet and help him move Kendrick Johnson's body, his father, now retired FBI special agent, Rick Bell, would make sure that he, Ryan Hall, would pay for it, as in suffer the same fate as KJ. Brandon Bell also told me that his father got in touch with Sheriff Chris Prine after being notified of the fight and Kendrick Johnson's death. Brandon Bell also told me that Sheriff Chris Prine then got in touch with the county coroner. Brandon Bell also told me that his father got in touch with another FBI agent who in some way facilitated the editing of the school surveillance video by corrupting or deleting some 1 hour and 25 minutes of the original recording. Brandon Bell also told me that after Kendrick Johnson's death, that his organs were removed and newspapers placed in the cavity so as to interfere with any effort to establish the correct time of death or otherwise disclose any other injuries. Brandon Bell also told me that the autopsy was falsely documented. I am giving this declaration in support of plaintiff's motions to withdraw admissions and plaintiff's opposition to defendant's motions for attorney's fees and expenses pursuant to 28 U.S.C. Statute 1746 and under penalty of perjury, that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on this 6th day of August 2017. Signed, Ryan Anthony Domek Hernandez.
Brian did not have a girlfriend at the time, but Hernandez is referring to Taylor Eakin. When police looked into this claim, they discovered that Brandon wasn't in Jacksonville during the time Hernandez claims to have heard this. They brought Hernandez in and showed him a photo lineup containing a photo of Brandon Bell, asking him which one was the one that told him the story. Hernandez was unable to identify Brandon. On August 18th, 12 days after the initial statement was made, Hernandez was arrested for trespassing. Johnson supporters were quick to accuse the police of silencing a whistleblower, but Hernandez was arrested after attempting to break into his ex-girlfriend's house. He already had a criminal record for stalking this woman, and she had a restraining order against him, which he had already violated once. During the attempted break-in, Hernandez cut himself severely and needed to go to the hospital. Reportedly, while he was there, he told the nurses he wanted to die, and to just let him bleed out. I'd like to say this is the final red herring, but given the radioactivity of this case, I think it's just a matter of time before there will be another one. On March 19, 2021, the Johnsons turned a confession tape over to Sheriff Ashley Polk. The tape was reportedly 25 seconds long, and the individual recorded was confessing to the murder of Kendrick Johnson.
The Lowndes County Sheriff is investigating new possible evidence in the case of a teen found dead in a high school gym. Kendrick Johnson's family say they recently obtained a recording of someone who may be confessing to killing him. The 17-year-old was found dead in a rolled-up gym mat in his high school 8 years ago. An autopsy ruled his death an accident, but his family has always believed he was killed. They turned over the 25-second recording to the sheriff earlier this week.
And I quote, "They're gonna catch me anyways. I should have never done this. I was young and stupid. Kendrick didn't deserve this, man." A couple of seconds go by, and he ends with a very tearful, "They're gonna catch me anyways."
The family says the audio was secretly recorded by the person's family member who sold it to them for $1,000. Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk says they are working to authenticate the clip and will ask the GBI for help. He also confirmed the recording may possibly be someone already questioned in the case. Earlier this month, the sheriff announced he was reopening this case after getting new evidence from a federal investigation.
The Johnsons said they got this tape from an anonymous man who demanded $1,000 for it. Polk was able to determine the individual who sold them the tape was Lupe Williams, and shortly after finding out the identity of the extortionist, the tape was determined to be a hoax. In the official complaint against Jason Pollock, creator of Finding Kendrick Johnson, the Bells state that a member of the Johnson family was charged with fabricating false evidence. We spoke to Sheriff Ashley Polk to confirm this, and he says that is not true. Lupe Williams was the only one charged. We asked for the confession tape, but it was still with the grand jury as of April 2024. In another investigative documentary on the case, Ashes to Ash, the creator states that Lupe Williams had been connected to Kenyatta Johnson, KJ's older sister, after they were discovered in a hotel room together. This connection may be the source of the confusion about who was charged. Thank you so much for listening. The next episode of The Boy in the Mat aims to dispel the lies and misinformation that have been allowed to run rampant surrounding this case, particularly in the media. It is the culmination of our efforts to get to the truth about what happened to Kendrick Johnson.